I've been looking forward to for a long time. Actually, ever since we started talking to have him on board, we're going to talk about an incredibly important, relevant topic, which is how to become a top I've been looking forward to for a long time. Actually, ever since we started talking to have him on board, we're going to talk about an incredibly important, relevant topic, which is how to become a top project leader. It is so crucial that you have great leaders out here. But first of all, I want to welcome you big time. Mads, welcome here to this LinkedIn Live.
Thank you so much, Asger, and thanks for having me. I've been looking very much forward to our session today.
One of the things I've been looking forward to talking to you is because you have been in the trenches. You have been a project leader. You have a vast amount of experience, not just in one company, but a lot of the big players here in Denmark, and they're also abroad, many of these big companies you worked for. And today, you get to be in touch with so many project leaders. Every single day, you run your own workshops, you're out in the companies. So you have the unique skill set because you've been doing it yourself, and now you're teaching, coaching other people. So first, I want to get to know you a little bit. I would love for the audience to get to know you a little bit. And then we can dive in how to become really a top project leader, the myths, the challenges, and what the best do differently than the rest. But my first question to you is, what's the reason you're so passionate about project leaders? How come that is something you love?
And you know what, Asger, I've been having a career for 22 years in project management by now, and it's something that is close to my heart. It's my passion. I've been fortunate enough to be with some of the biggest companies in Denmark: Arla, Novo Nordisk, Novonesis, Ørsted, Maersk, and Grundfos. And I'm really passionate about it. It's my passion, project management, to move things, to look into how to create value. That's really a passion, and that's just really my career, 22 years. So I've seen everything that works, and I've seen everything that doesn't work, and that's why I gain a lot of learnings and lessons learned in my 22 years career. And I think the reason why I'm into what I do today, because I've been helping many project leaders. I just counted, I think I've been helping like 300 project leaders the last 2 years. And I think the biggest complication is that there are many project leaders that have success. They know the toolbox, they know how to put up milestones, project plans, and so on and so forth. But it's the leadership part, and actually studies show that 75% of projects fail because of lack of leadership. And that's why I'm extremely passionate about this. And that's one brutal statistic. But also looking at, I think it's implement the consulting company. They looked into what are some of the brutal statistics in project management, and they found out that more than 70% of projects doesn't deliver what is expected. Wow. 70%. So only 30% of projects are actually successful or meeting expectations. 30% they go over budget, and I think the worst one is really that it's a limited number of companies that have high performance project management, and that's actually only 8% that has high performance project management, meaning how to identify, how to execute, how to get the full benefit of a project. So there are some brutal statistics. So I'm really on a mission here, Asger, to make sure to change those statistics so we get to that high success rate. So that's what I do. That's what I do today. Work with a lot of project leaders, help them to get success in their role, get the career that they want, so they get success in the companies, and also helping companies in gaining or having success in project management.
Yeah. Wow. Some crazy statistics. Yeah.
Totally. It's brutal.
It's tough out there, and I think, well, I would love to hear your opinion about it, of course, but I'm imagining this is a difficult role because you're running a project, so you have an interest in moving the project forward. Still, you have to care for your team. You have to care for those who hired you to run the project, and maybe there's some external partner as well. right? So the internal management team and the external, the client maybe. So there are a lot of people pushing you around, and you have to kind of satisfy everyone. Is that true? Is that one of the things that can drive a project leader nuts?
Oh yes. That's a huge challenge. And the thing is, there are no such things as static projects. Every project is dynamic, right? So things change, and you have to navigate that. And as a project leader, you're the sort of the orchestrator. You're in the center of attention. So you have the leadership, you have steering group, you have potentially a project team, you have stakeholders around the organization. So there's a lot of responsibility on a project leader's shoulders. And I feel also, or I hear also that there are many project leaders that are under pressure because they have this challenge of orchestrating all these things. And that's why stakeholder management is such an important element. And I see many project managers, they go too fast across that. So it's all about understanding your stakeholders, understanding what are the drivers, what are the barriers, what's sort of their role, what's their take, their interest in the project. So getting to know these in depth, that's super important. And not only stakeholders around the organization, also your team. Make sure you understand them. So if you have a project team of maybe 3 or 5 or whatever, that's a typical size that I see, understand them. Really go into dialogue. What's their motivation? What drives them? What's the barriers that they see in this project? And then involve them. Don't sort of involve them in the project, and make sure that they are highly motivated and eager to get a part of the project. So there's a lot of communication, but investment in time in the various time. And I see some project managers, they go too fast over this pace. So invest day one in the first days in getting aligned, getting to know the team, getting the drivers, the barriers, so you understand the motivation for not only your team but also the stakeholders.
Wow, I love that you mentioned that. You know, I'm an engineer myself. So what I've experienced, and I'd love to hear, of course, your take on it as well, is you mentioned we do the KPIs, we put the milestones down, we have the systems in place.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, the things that might be lacking is the human connection. You mentioned dialogue. Let's talk together. Motivate. Okay, what really motivates people? It's not just here's a task and do it. Figure out what do they want to do. You say communication and alignment. So what I'm hearing from you is really these relationship tools and communication tools. Is that kind of what you often see be missing?
Yeah. And it's from the very start, actually. So you have to think about, Asger, that an organization is a collection of individuals. And what do I mean about that? Well, it's basically we have different mindsets. So we can, as project leaders, think, yeah, I think we're ready now. I understand this person. He or she understands me, and then it's just full speed ahead, right? Because that's what projects are like. It's sort of fast paced. So we move forward, but then we actually find out eventually, and that's my experience, that we go too quickly into execution mode without sort of pausing and make sure that we understand the team that we work with. What motivates them, that's just super important. And that's why there's so many people that are project managers that are super skilled and also master the leadership part, of course, but that's major communication. But most project leaders are super good at the toolbox, right? You can almost Google that today. It might be a bit of a take, but you can take a project management course, and then you know the tools and stuff. Yeah. But it's this leadership skills, it's the emotional intelligence, which is sort of a big buzzword these days. These days, that you know how to lead your team, and that's where the big complication is. Yeah. And it's simply getting to know the team from the start. So if you're initiating a project, make sure that you spend some time with the team, understanding them, because that's going to create a very good start to the project.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I heard a while ago one say success in business is 85% emotional intelligence, 15% your skill set.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And there's a lot of minds, and that's also what what I train my participants on my mentoring program, that I train the mindset as well. Having a positive mindset, because as a project leader, I think many in the audience here today feel this thing about there's a lot of pressure. So you also have a tendency to sort of drown a little bit in all the complications and all the negativity in projects. But it's all about having a focused mindset and a positive mindset, because the energy that you bring in, and let's face it, there's a lot of energy in projects, right?
Yeah.
So the energy and the attitude you bring to the table is super, super important. And that's what I help some of the project managers that I have on my program to have that positive mindset. Obviously, you cannot be having a wide smile all the time, but focusing on having that positive mindset. So mindset is a super important thing to master when you're actually a project leader. That's part of the leadership part, the soft emotional intelligence part.
Yeah. And I think it's so great you teach these skills for two reasons. There's been for many years focus on the toolbox. Of course, it's valuable, it's needed, but also generally there's not much of this sort of training in our school system. We are taught to think logically, rationally, and of course that's valuable. But where's the course on emotional intelligence? Where's the course on how to listen well, how to really ask good questions to figure out how do you motivate? So unfortunately, we have to learn it after school, and it's great we have guys like you teaching this. Yeah, and I think that's good. So you just said a thing which is super important, because many of the project managers that I talk to, they are like myself, eager to move ahead and get to the solution. They are solution oriented, so they are just rolling ahead. But it's just super important to work on having a strong set of skills within active listening. Yes. So not bringing the solutions forward, but actually listening to your team, not saying, we do this and that and let's go, right? Because that's a tendency sometimes. And I have that feeling myself, and I did that early on in my career as well. I was like, forgetting to dive into and listen to the team. So the active listening is extremely important. Because you always find out things that you didn't know about a team member or a stakeholder or a steering group member or whatever it is. So you need that time, that space to get behind the person and understand that person, the motivational things and all of that. And there might be somebody in the audience that thinks, Mads, that takes a lot of time, but it's worthwhile an investment, and it doesn't have to be more complicated, that you sit down and really try to understand this person and the motivation behind. And that's really important, because when you start up a project, if you don't get that mechanism ready from the start, right, then you don't have that alignment. And I see so many project managers, they think they know everything is in place, and then they move along. And if that's not in place, then the risk is that you actually, you do the wrong analysis, because you haven't really found out, you haven't aligned it, and there might be different understandings on how to understand the purpose of the project. So you do the wrong analysis, then you do the wrong conclusions, you lose people on the way because you haven't really caught up with them from the very start, and then the project falls apart. And that's the statistics. I see that in the first days of a project, that is so vital. That is so vital to get off to a good start, to have the planning ready before I actually kickstart it. And there's so many elements there, and that's what I train my participants of my program, that you really need to understand the purpose of the project, but you also need to get aligned with the team and also the steering group team, so the leadership of the project. Yeah. And there's a I love statistics, Asger. You know that, right? But you know Formula One, right? Yes.
And there's an awesome statistics there, and they before they actually the race actually kicks off. There's the qualification race, right?
Yes.
And it's not just a race where they sort of drive a little bit around and stuff like that. It is super quick. They race very fast in the qualification round. And you know why?
They want to be in pole position.
Yes, right. And the one that actually ends up in the pole position, the statistics show that 40% that is in the pole position actually wins the race.
Yeah.
And that's the same. That's exactly the same with projects. Actually, you need to get off to a good start. You need to have that super good position because the success rate of the project will just skyrocket. And that's what the top 1% project leaders, they master. That is to get the start correct, but also ensuring that the team, because you have sort of things that changed during the project, right? There might be a new stakeholder, there might be a new team member, there might be a difference in opinions or change in opinions. There might be circumstances outside of the company that comes in. So the top 1 project leaders, they understand to do these pit stops. Now that we talk Formula One, so some pit stops where they actually check in with the team, accountability meetings, check-ins, pit stops, call it what you want, and make sure that everybody is aligned, that they are motivated, roles and responsibilities are clear. That is very, very, very important. And I also see some project managers, they need to step up on that. And that's what I hope some of the participants today, that they can feel inspired of actually doing these check-ins, because that's important. And there are many that sort of skip that part as well.
Yeah, I think you touch on something really crucial, because they are busy, the project leaders, the team members are busy. Exactly. And maybe we forget, and this is also something I experience often when I talk to people, we focus on the problem, but often the problem is the relationship problem. And once you fix that problem, the deadline problem will be solved so much quicker. But again, working with engineers or technical people, I know you worked a lot in very technical companies. We tend to think that's the problem. Yes, it is the problem. But sometimes we need to do, like you say, prepare incredibly well, have trained everything beforehand. Do you agree on that?
So totally. So the planning, making sure that we get off to a good start, not only doing the project plan, a risk plan, the project organization, so the sort of the tool part of it, that's not enough. You need to get the human part from the start right as well. That's where I see most mistakes are done, because it's not enough to have that project plan. That's not enough, because you lose people on the way. You're not aligned. You might have different opinions about the project purpose or the problem that is being solved for. Might be different as well. You might look at the wrong problem as well. There's a reason why there's root cause analysis, because many projects are looking at the wrong problem. And if you look at the wrong problem, well, you're not off to a good start, right? But it's the leadership, it's the team alignment, getting the motivation, getting engagement, getting interest from the very start that is super important. And that's the thing, Asger, having dealing with stakeholders. Normally, project leaders don't have formal leadership, right? Some do. It depends on where you are. If you're a project director or project VP, you probably have a team that refer to you, but most have informal leadership references, so to speak, right? So you need to be, you need to be very strong in motivating and engaging the team, because you don't have sort of formal leadership, you have informal leadership. And that's important, because you might have stakeholders also around the organization that have different opinions, and then say, hey, why is this important to me? Why should I talk to you? What's the take on this project for me? I don't show any interest and stuff like that. So there's a lot of alignment and discussions in the start of a project that is super important.
Nice. What do you feel, or what's your experience in terms of the biggest myth? I mean, I'm sure you have, when you run your teams, they come with certain ideas, conceptions of, I need to master this. But I'm probably sure with all your experience, you say, no. It's nice enough to learn this, but really, this is what you need to master. So what do you feel are some of the biggest myths in order to become a great project leader?
Well, I think see that many so many of the mistakes, or the mistakes that the project leaders do that I see is that they communicate too little. They send out a memo, and I remember one of my participants, not to mention any names, but she sent a memo inviting for a steering group, right? Yeah. And only 2 persons out of 5 turned up. And she thought, well, I sent out the memo. So why didn't they come? So she forgot that people part from the very start, understanding the motivation behind. She should have had some one-on-ones with them, understanding where they're coming from, what's sort of the interest into the project, what are their role, their take, drivers, barriers again. So she lacked that part. So I think an important aspect today, and that's also why I'm so passionate about this, is communication. It's like the real estate business, right?
Yeah.
That's location. In project management, it's communication. And that's just super important. And then consider, it's not enough to sort of sit in your ivory tower and send out an email. You need to reiterate, discuss, include the team that you're working with on a very human way, so to speak.
Okay.
That's if I want one thing to go through today, and then that's it about communication and listen to different perspectives, getting different perspectives as well.
Wow.
And that's just super important. And also the ones that participate today, think about what you miss when you don't have those dialogue. We are masters in moving ahead.
Yeah.
And also I remember this from early on in my career that, this thing about interrupting because you're eager to get along, this thing about interrupting because you want to sort of get to the solution and get moving, right? But sometimes you need to stay silent a bit and then ask. Because what happens if we interrupt all the time, Asger? Two things happen, right?
Yeah.
One thing is it's ruining our relation. It is damaging our relation because I think we can agree it's pretty annoying to get interrupted all the time, right?
Of course.
And secondly, we miss insights, and it's probably important insights that we didn't think about. So it's about getting those insights, communicating, go into dialogues, and keep that going throughout a project, and allow the time and space for that. That's super important.
Yeah. Love your last part. Of course, I think most people know that's annoying to be interrupted, but I love your last part about that we think, and I experience this myself, and I think most people do. Sometimes we actually learn things by just sharing it, kind of the ideas, the thoughts come. Yeah. This is what sometimes happens when I'm here in the office today with my team, and then maybe we have booked a meeting. Oh, is there anything you want to talk about? No, things are going well. But, let's have a little chat anyway. And then a few minutes into the talk, we get new ideas, discover new challenges, problems. So really love that beautiful things can happen when we talk together and allow the time and space for it to happen, even if it might not be pressing. Right?
And it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. That is just I love structure, right? That's sort of the foundation. Leadership is super important, but you also need the structure, right? You need the tools part. So it's sort of it's connected, right? But it's important. I think it's super important to sort of plan those check-ins, and it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It's just putting in a half an hour check-in twice a week or whatever, right? Yeah. And then also asking if your audience is interested, then I actually have a small thing I would like to share. We can agree afterwards how to share it.
No, of course.
But I also think that there are so many project leaders that don't reflect on the week that has passed, so to speak, because they're too busy. We're so busy in projects, right? So we sort of forget to stop out and reflect on the week that has passed. And it's like an iceberg, right? It's only like 10 or 20% that is visible, where 80% and 90% that is below the surface. So we cannot see that, and there might be some opportunities or challenges, some relations that we need to reflect upon. So I actually have a template for that where you can actually that you can use to check in on your morning mindset and your evening mindset that you can use every day or every week. But I can share that afterwards. Let's
do that, which is super great, because that's a question I also want to ask you, because you talk a lot about communication and checking it. That's so useful, and so many nice tools you share here. Also for people who are listening, to get the confidence, this is important to really communicate with your team, with your members, and do like Matt say, schedule it. I know from personal experience that sometimes it's nice it's booked, because I've also had leaders who said, the door is always open. But I might only come when the shit is on fire. Maybe I could come before things get really annoying or troublesome. So I think that's a good idea. Another thing I really would love to ask you about, this is the thing you talked about, mindset. What you mean by mindset, and what is the kind of mindset you need in order to run projects well? Would you love to dive into a little bit of mindset?
So actually, there are different things behind mindset, but there's 4 mindset things that I'd like to share that the top 1% actually master.
Nice.
And I'll try to do it short because I'm very passionate about mindset and how to develop your mindset. So the first thing is that that's results or prioritization, because that's what top 1% master. They use very much Pareto's rule. I think that's how I pronounce it. It's known as the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah.
They know that the 20% of project actions, that's where the 80% of the impact is. So they're extremely good at, we have a tendency to sort of do everything, do all the actions because that's what's in the project plan. But they constantly challenge themselves and focus on that 20% and then put some actions or some tasks on the back burner, so to speak.
Okay.
And that's a big advantage because then they get better results. They're able to allocate resources to the most important tasks. So that's the first one. That's the result of prioritization.
Yeah.
The second thing is action. They're very good at taking action, right? And that's also a mistake that I see in projects, that it often goes into sort of a fatigue situation. Things don't move fast enough. And if that happens, then in so many cases, the project dies. Or gets seriously delayed. You lose people. Again, you empty the energy and motivation, engagement from the people involved. So they're keen on moving things ahead. They don't overanalyze things to death, because when you can analyze and then suddenly it's sort of it hits a plateau where you can still analyze, but you need to take that decision. So shortly said, they're good at taking action. The third one is attitude, and we actually discussed that in the very start. That is to have that positive mindset. Because, Asger, you also know, when you've been in a meeting and there's a person that is negative, right? It just drains the energy. And it doesn't create any positive positive results. Whereas a positive person, that brings energy, and it stimulates that creative thinking. So it actually gives some energy to the project and thereby results.
Yeah.
The last one is faith. They have faith in themselves. They're willing to try things out. So they have a risk mindset as well. Yeah. But I think the most important thing is they have faith in others as well. And that's important. And that brings me to an important topic. And sorry if I get a little bit, because it's a super important topic. Yeah. Because if, for example, in all projects, there is a person or a team that is on the fence, or there might be a lack, there's no relation, right? And I see many project leaders, they're like, I'm going to stay out of this. I'll work with my team here because I like this team. I don't like Bente or Lisa from the marketing department. I'll stay out of it, right?
Yeah.
And I see many do that. So it's to avoiding conflicts, which is a super important topic. It's something that I actually give some lectures on as well. Because there are many that leaves that doesn't address a bad relation or a non-existent relation. And as you can imagine, then that bad relation or non-existent relation, at some point, it has a negative impact on the project.
Of course.
And there's this saying in Danish it's put svisken på bordet, but in English, it's an English session, right?
Yeah.
You need to put that fish on the table, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't put that fish on the table, it's under the table and it starts to smell badly. Yeah. But if you put that fish on the table, there's going to be a nice meal out of it, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, and I know that's a metaphor, but top 1%, they're really good at addressing that lack of relation or where there's a bad relation, and then go into dialogue. And that links me back to what we started out by discussing, this thing about go to that person or team, it could be a team as well, start asking questions, probing for that motivation background, getting to know that person, and if there's a problem, try to separate that person and the problem and focus on the problem, because there might be some people that you don't like, but separate the person and the problem and focus on the problem. Think about the project, getting to the root of things and getting to know that person's problems. There might be something that emerge that is important, so you get that person on board. So it's a positive sort of relationship and thereby a positive impact on the project. So it's a super important point that I'd like to get through today. Make sure you address those sort of cases where there's a lack of relation or bad relation, because we have a natural tendency to sort of avoid that. So just to sum up, 4 things: it's the results, the prioritization to get to the right result, taking action, having the right attitude, having faith in oneself and in others. And if it's lacking, address it.
Yeah, I love that. A couple of things came to my mind, especially as you talked about the last topic here, faith, having faith in people and addressing the problem. So what I hear is, okay, maybe there's a problem with some people in another department. You have to be good at protecting your team, because essentially that's what you do. You go and, take that conflict, take that difficult conversation. You don't leave it to the team members. That's probably going to destroy a little bit of motivation. So you also have the authority to do that. So that's what I hear. You take charge, you protect your people. Yeah. And what I also love is you say, okay, let's try to create the relationship with that person. So really bond with them, get to know them. And of course, as you said, really important, separate the problem and the relationship problem. Yeah. And of course, if we then create a good relationship, often the problem is easy to solve. Yeah. Often very hard if the relationship is struggling, right? Is that kind of a few things?
It is, and there's one thing you said there, Asger, that's important. That's true. If you have a project team, right?
Yeah.
It's like whether you're a formal leader or an informal leader, but you need to. It's important that you as a project manager that you're an authentic leader. Yeah. So you're clear about, you lead by example, right? You build that bond with your team. So again, the active listening, getting to know their motivation drivers and what we talked about before, but also showing yourself, what sort of your take on things, where are your boundaries? Maybe be transparent about your strengths and your weaknesses as well. I think that's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of strength, to actually show where you actually lack some competences. So be and that's to the authentic leadership part. That's actually a strength to have, whether you're a formal leader or an informal leader. And then really focus on clarity. I think clarity is a super important word. So make sure that there's clarity around the team with the roles and responsibilities, what's expected of them, how can they work with you, how can you work as a team. So getting that discussion going, so you know how to use each other, because normally, actually, the best project team is a team that consists of different skills, different backgrounds. So complementary resources or skills, that's actually super good. But that also involves, that also leads to some conflicts, which are okay. It's okay to have conflicts. So make sure that you go into the dialogue, make sure to create and focus on clarity. So if you lose clarity, that might be a little bit blurred sometimes because things change, as we talked about in a project, but focus on clarity. That you have clarity at all times and a clear direction on things. If there's a lack of direction in a project, well, you know where things are going. We're not going to get to 100% success rate, and that's a key responsibility area or responsibility area of a project leader in my book.
Yeah,
a myth. Really, back to the myth. I'm just thinking about that. I just want to mention that quickly. A myth is that a project leader needs to do everything, right?
Yeah.
If you focus on what we talked about today, Asger, so the leadership part, the alignment, getting to know your team. So you have motivation and dedication. Then it's pretty easy to delegate stuff because they want to be part of it. They want to be part of the team. They want to engage into the activities.
Yeah.
And there's also many project leaders that I've been talking to. They are sort of, I might as well do it myself, because it takes time to sort of get a person on board in the team, a stakeholder, whatever could be, or whatever, right? But it's super important sometimes to pause and actually spend a little bit of time to make sure that person actually does the activity. Because if you do it yourself, then you don't strengthen your relation with that person or team for them. So just follow that as to
No,
time.
I think that's good. I mean, I think it's an important thing to stop and think about. Am I doing it just because it's easier right now? It's right. I have kids myself. And sometimes in the morning, it's like, it's easy if I just help them get the clothes on. But I also know then there's a new day tomorrow, and it's probably easier if I help them become self-motivated to do it. I spend a little bit more time that one time, but over time, and I guess it's the same with a team. You help them learn the skills so the third or fourth time they do it better, easier themselves.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of, obviously it's not a team of kids, but it's the thinking is still the same. I agree. So I think delegation and inclusiveness is super important, and just remember that you don't have to do everything yourself. Your primary job as a project leader is to orchestrate, and communicate, highlight issues, and go into issues, go into conflicts. And again, I can only say that there's by now that I love statistics, but 90 or 95% of the ones that I talked to over the last 2 years, the 300 plus project leaders, they don't like conflicts, right? So I actually teach, and there's a lot of mindset in that as well, Asger, but I actually teach the ones that are attending my programs that conflicts are good, that conflicts are necessary. Because it's first and foremost, they are developing us as a person. So we come out of our safe zone, here the comfort zone, and stretch ourselves. And that's where we develop ourselves. And also you create energy and value for the company and the ones that you work with. So conflicts are not only necessary, they are developing yourself and the ones that you work with and the organization. So and I know that to some that might sound a bit strange because conflicts is a dangerous thing. But make sure you go into conflicts, whether it's small or big. There's always small or big conflicts in a project. Make sure you address it, go into it, put that fish on the table. I think that's important.
Yeah, I totally agree. It takes a little bit of courage. And of course, the easy solution is not to do it. The better solution is to go in there. And one thing I'd like to say is if we can agree that we can disagree, then we have come very far. Because it's in the disagreement that we can learn and grow, and it would be naive to think that a project wouldn't have different opinions. Like you said, how do you put a team together that's optimal? Well, different skill sets, different experiences, and if we all agreed all the time, it would probably not be a good project. Sure, we could have fun, and there will always be harmony, but what would the end result be if we didn't have those discussions? So conflicts are good, especially if we handle them well. I have a question I'm dying to know a little bit about, because you say it's so important you have your roles. What are your responsibilities? How do you ensure that people know this? I mean, on the team, like exactly what's the expectations? What are the roles? What are the tools and techniques you give them to help project leaders really make sure that every member know this is their role?
Super important question. So it's part of the planning phase. So where before you actually have the actual kickoff of the project, this stuff should be in place. So the first thing is really, there's an important element, that is to draw up the project organization. Very important. And I also see many actually skip that part too fast. So ensure that you have that classic project organization, that you have a steering group, you have a project sponsor. And that can be someone very senior, or it can be your boss or whatever, but make sure that that person is defined. And then also you as a project leader, who do you have on the team? What work streams do you have, and who are the work streams responsible? That's so you have sort of an org chart in a project sense, right? That's the first step. Second step, and that's where many go wrong. That is that, okay, now we have the project organization. So now we can move it along. Then they look at the project plan, adjust that, do the milestones, doing the actions, and who does this and who does that. Then they move along, but they forget some time, and that's important to get that alignment on the roles and responsibilities. So for example, as a steering group, how do we use the steering group? What are they used for? The boss, the steering group head, he has or she has the decisive power to make decisions. But what are the roles of the others, right? The project leader, what's the roles and responsibilities there? The project team members. So get that down on paper, because for sure in 99% there's a different interpretation on the role that I have and the role that you have and the role that you have, because we are a collection of individuals. We have different way of thinking, which is good. But we need to get that down on paper, the organization, and then the roles and responsibilities. And I have a template for that. I'm a template fan, right? But so to ensure that you have that roles and responsibility nailed down for each person. And it could also, so that's a project team. It could also be for some of the stakeholders that have a say or an involvement of some kind in the project. So roles and responsibilities, get that down on paper so you get alignment around it. That's important.
Yeah, crucial point, and I love you come back to have it implemented in the planning phase.
Yeah.
Of course, we're eager, we want to go, and it's probably a project that has a tight deadline. Most projects have this in our business, but, and we have seen it again and again, massive delays in so many projects.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is so important. I love this. What's the question I have for you? Like, if you should give one thing, like, what would be the best simple tool people could do, let's say, every single day? Okay, I really want to start today, want to make a better team. Let me implement something after this LinkedIn Live. I know we covered a lot of stuff, but what could be one simple task people could start using today, doing? What would be the simplest?
That leads me to something that is that's actually the one thing. I don't know if you read the book, The One Thing, that is actually super cool, because
No, I haven't.
I can't remember all the insights of today, but one thing that I think we haven't touched upon, and that's actually the leadership tool number one, and you probably know about this, and that's feedback. And so if you should think about something, feedback is the number one leadership tool. How did we develop ourselves and develop others, so to speak, right?
Okay.
And I think the audience here know, yes, Mads, feedback, that's not new to me, but the problem is that we don't do enough of it. We don't do it structured enough. Many people are not comfortable in actually receiving or providing feedback. So having that 360 feedback is important to develop yourself and develop others, and again, build relations with your team. So if you should take one thing, then that is reflect about how you do feedback, and put down some actions, and then test it out in real life when you go back to work after this session. Try it out, and then I could hold a masterclass. We got a session on feedback alone, but my point is just to bring it forward, and then make the audience here to reflect today on how they do feedback, and then make sure you receive feedback and you give feedback.
Okay. Wow. So important to receive feedback as well. I mean, for most people, it's easy to give feedback, or at least easier, but it can be more vulnerable to receive it. What do you feel is some of the biggest mistakes in feedback? Because sometimes what I experience is that people, you share some tools, some techniques to improve the other person, but they leave demotivated. They leave, okay, maybe this person is right, I should do better in this, but because we killed them with all the things they should do better or could improve on, the motivation is lost. So how do we actually lift people up with a feedback?
Yeah.
Rather than just a couple of good things they could do.
And that's super good question, Asger, and I think that's why there are so many that actually try to avoid feedback, because it's uncomfortable for many to actually receive feedback. But I think more is actually uncomfortable actually providing feedback, because they think they are hurting a person and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's, in all honesty, and that's us as being authentic leaders in projects. It is to get to that understanding, and that's also important up front actually, to align with the project team on how to work together, and get aligned on the feedback parts. So they're not surprised that you suddenly call in for a feedback session or whatever, right? So get that alignment and understanding up front, and then say, hey, I'm okay in getting feedback. And then always, and that's a classical thing in feedback, to ensure to start with the appraisal stuff, the positive stuff, but also get to that understanding that it's the improvement areas. That's where we develop ourselves. Yeah. And you need to bring that to the table. It's again about putting that fish on the table, and put it in a way in a calm and nice way. It's in a constructive way, not to start throwing stones and stuff. But think about how do you bring it forward in a nice and constructive way, and then as a project leader, make sure that you support that team member and help and coach that team member to actually solve these problems or address these problems. So be a strong coach in projects as well.
Nice.
So and that can, to many, I bet that at least to many of that I talk to, they get a little bit of sweat in the forehead, because it's actually a little bit of crossing some boundaries to do this feedback. Yeah. And to do it frequent enough, because that's the second mistake, basically. Yeah. That is that many project managers doesn't do it enough. They do it like 10 minutes at the end of the project, and then say, hey, let's just meet for a coffee, and then do a quick feedback. Yeah. It's not enough. You need to again, through other projects, you have pit stops, things change, dynamic projects and all that we talked about. It's important to take those feedback sessions because there might be something on a team member's mind that is a struggle or something that has happened that needs to come to the surface, that you need to talk about. So that's important. That's important.
Okay, love that. So a couple of things just to reiterate what you said on feedback. Make sure that's in the planning phase. I love because then you're not called into the office. Oh, feedback. Have I done anything wrong?
Yeah.
You're aligned. Okay, maybe we have a weekly meeting. It's just check in with what's working well and maybe one or two improvement points. Love that because it's always uncomfortable, of course. And then I love what you also said. Take the responsibility as the project leader. Be the coach. Like say, hey, I'm here to help. You know, let's work on it. Is it a mail or whatever thing it is? Come by. Let's work it together. The first iteration or whatever it is. So really, they can feel you are there with them, being the coach. Yes. It takes more as a leader, of course, to do it, but that's what you got to do. You got to go first and lead. And I think that is also how we learn because that's one of the mistakes I also see a lot of times. People give the information, but it's rarely enough. It's often we need the examples, we need the details, and it's not enough to have like an overall guideline. We need to get into the details, and hopefully if you've worked together, one or two examples, then they know way better. Yeah. So I love the coaching part. I love also the thing you mentioned, make it frequent.
Yes.
Because we don't develop by like our yearly MOOCs, as we call it in Denmark, conversation with your leader. Sure, it's nice, but it's in the weekly, daily work we develop over time. So make it frequent. Love that. Matt, what am I missing here? Like, what's the question you would have loved to have been given by me that I haven't given to you?
I think we've been well around, so I don't think I can think of anything, but I'm just reflecting on what you said because this coaching thing is super important. So let me just put a few words on that, because coaching is actually a skill that if you really want to excel as a project leader, you need to train yourself in being a good coach. Because coaching is all about, in my terminology, in my view, and in my optical lens set here, it's all about seeing the potential in another person.
Yes.
And I think that's important. So I can only encourage you guys to see you guys that are here today that you focus in on your coaching skills and get someone to coach, and then maybe also get someone to coach you. I think that's important because that is how we develop ourselves and also develop others. And that's another statistic. I promise that's the last statistic I shared with you.
That's a statistic.
But actually, McKinsey & Company, which I'm sure you know about, one of the biggest consultancy companies in the world, they found out through a study, how they did it, I'm not sure, but they found out that there's only 2% of individuals that utilize their full potential.
Wow.
That is another brutal statistic, right? So there's a lot of... and that's through the relations, that's through coaching, that's through your leadership as a project leader, that you really coach others to raise the bar, really, right? And if you can do that, does that foster motivation and engagement? Yes, it does. And that's an excellent tool to coaching is an excellent tool to, get success as a project leader with the team, with the company. Yeah. So I think that's an important point as well.
Yeah. Loved your last part as well. You know, as project leaders, we have to do the things we advocate ourselves. Get the feedback yourself. You say, get the coaching. If you coach others, be coached yourself. I mean, earlier, I would often go out and speak to people who would be speakers. And then sometimes I would ask, how many in here are coaches? A lot of hands go up. Then I love my second question, which is, how many in here have a coach? Few hands come up. Yeah. It's kind of like you don't believe in your own concept, right? So we got to lead. We got to go first, both ways.
Yeah. So and that's important because it is, when I think about my career, because I got a coach relatively early, right? And I did all the mistakes. The last or the first six years was a struggle for me because I didn't know the tools and how to lead. Yeah. Then I got someone to help me. So there's different elements of course, on-the-job training can develop your skill set, right?
Yeah.
You can go on a seminar or you can go on a course that can further raise the bar. Yeah. But coaching, getting someone that you can get inspiration from, a coach that is where you want to be, yeah. that is gonna accelerate your journey towards being a top 1% project leader for sure. Yeah. I did that myself when I got to getting a mentor. Relatively early in my career, that really excelled me plowing forward. Someone I could inspire myself in, or see myself in, but also someone that could nudge me and not do the work for me, but say, Mads, have you thought about this? What about this? So you got to reflect upon it and started to build your skill set in leadership and project leadership.
Yeah, totally agree. I can only agree with you. When I ever move forward, it's through help with other people. Of course, we ourselves can find some answers, but it just goes so much quicker when we have someone and as you say, not just, okay, maybe you should give the client a call rather than doing the easy thing, sending them an email, right? Creating that connection. So that's awesome tips. Mads, I've really enjoyed our conversation. We've covered a lot. I want to let people know where they can find out more about your work and so forth. But just to reiterate, we talk a lot about you got to be great at communicating. You got to be great at planning. You got to be there for your team with feedback, with coaching, and you got to get alignment. You got to have motivational tools, have focus, have energy, really overall be an inspiring person they like to be around. They feel you want to help them. You lead, you protect your team, you're there for them. Those are kind of the things I take away. Toolbox is nice, it's good, but it's the human skills that set the top 1% apart. Mm-hmm. So Mads, I know you run a lot of different things. You have your mastermind group and you also go out in companies and many of the bigger organizations in Denmark. So what would be a great place to connect with you and say, hey, I love this session here with Mads. I want to know more about how to really excel my skills as a project leader. Where should they go find you?
And that's a different place. Obviously, they can follow me on LinkedIn, where I share stuff. They can find me on Facebook. I have a sort of a business page. I also have a Facebook group. I think we are at this time we are more than 650 in that group. I share a lot of stuff in there. Yeah. They can find me on YouTube, and I'm not a YouTuber, Asger. I'm not a YouTuber, but I share sort of my insights through videos there as well, so they can find me there as well. They can go to my website, madseilertsen.dk, and download an ebook. So they the ones that are interested in that, then they get onto my list and get valuable insights within project leadership and project management as well. I'm on Instagram as well. I'm not on TikTok, and I don't plan to, but I try to sort of be those places, and that's it. But I'm really focusing on getting a lot of value out. I have quite a number of persons on my list as well, so I try to sort of provide some valuable content to them as well. So if you're interested to be on my list, go to my website. You can sign up for my ebook and get on my list. But Facebook, Insta, and LinkedIn is also an opportunity. I'm
on your list, Mads. I know great newsletters you send out. I love the content. And I know you typically work with two kinds of, you can say, groups, people who can join in from various companies. You run you can say, open courses. So if you're out there as a single person, really recommend go check out Mads' course. You're listening in from a company and thinking, hey, this could be valuable for our department day or something else useful inside the company. Then I also say, reach out to Mads. You can help within your organization or as an individual person. Yeah. Is that kind of right?
That's totally right. And maybe one thing you didn't ask, Asger, do we have time for that?
Yeah, let's go, man.
Maybe just one thing, because I know that there might be some thinking when they see this either live or after. I think there's going to be a recording, right? I know they're thinking, Mads, I'm having difficulties in sort of in getting to a place where I can sort of align with people because things are so fast paced, right? And that's really back now. I really want to reiterate that you need that strong anchoring in a project. You need that strong sponsor that you can go to if shit's hit the fan, so to speak. Yeah. So to make sure that you really work on that project organization, because you need to invest some time up front. And I know that it's difficult. So full understanding, and I know that there might be some that are thinking it's impossible to do this thing thoroughly up front. But you need that, and that's why strong anchoring up front with a sponsor and steering group, make sure that it's aligned with what the roles and responsibilities are. That's just very, very important for the success of the project, but also the success of you as a project leader. Yeah. Very important. And the ones that are involved in the project.
So really the key takeaway, invest time, energy before the project really gets going.
Yeah.
One of the big myths, and you can gain so much.
Yes. Yes.
Mads, just got to say it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll leave the links to places here in the chat where people can find you, pretty much any platform. So Mads, huge pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure for Mads, and I also say I don't know if there's been any questions in the chat, but if there are any questions followed up here, then feel free to write me on LinkedIn or write me an email. You can find it on our webpage. So feel free to reach out. Also, now that we talked about feedback, Asger, right? If you have some feedback to the session today or some reflections, make sure to plow that forward, because I only wish to sort of have the most valuable discussions and create some value through the dialogues here. So Asger, I'll also say it's an absolute pleasure. It's a theme that I'm very passionate about. So thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. See you, Mads.
See you. Thanks for now.
All the audience.